What's going on, guys? So today we have a new analyst price target for Aurora Cannabis, so I'll be talking about that. And on top of that, we have a brand new interview from Cam Battley with Yahoo Finance, where he talks about Aurora Cannabis and their recent earnings. He talks about share dilution and more. But before we get this video started, don't forget, leave me some comments in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought about the earnings. Let me know what you guys think about the interview. Whatever you want, just leave me a comment. Also, give me a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, smash that subscribe button, and let's get this video started. So there's a few things I want to look at before we look at the price target and before we start looking at Aurora Cannabis news. First of all, I want to mention that Aurora Cannabis continues to uptrend. So as you can see right now, Aurora Cannabis is up 1.79%, and that's the American ticker symbol. Canadian ticker symbol is up 2.06% for Aurora Cannabis, and we still continue to uptrend, which is a good sign. Another thing I do want to mention is if we look at shares outstanding, Aurora has now officially more than 1 billion shares outstanding. You can see right here 1.015 billion shares outstanding. So yes, Aurora did dilute even more shares this quarter. Another thing I want to look at is yesterday I did talk about the Bollinger Bands in my video, and I was talking about how the 50-day moving average and the Bollinger Bands were going to cross, and they literally just crossed right here today. So it's looking right now like Aurora Cannabis is looking to make a huge run. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about here, right here the Bollinger Bands crossed, and what happened? Aurora Cannabis had a nice decline. Right here the Bollinger Bands crossed. It looks like Aurora Cannabis is going to have a nice run, and it just continues. This pattern continues to repeat. Right here the Bollinger Bands cross, we had a decline. Right here they crossed, we had a huge run. So I'm hoping for a nice run since the Bollinger Band literally crossed right here with the 50-day moving average. But now onto some news. Does Aurora Cannabis look attractive after its earnings? So on May 14th, the company delivered sequential net revenue growth of 20% to 65 million from 54 million, and Aurora Cannabis delivered net revenue growth of 305% year over year from 16.1 million. The stock has moved sideways since its third quarter earnings. So Aurora Cannabis was trading at a forward EV to sales multiple of 14.2, which was lower compared to its valuation multiple of 14.7 before the earnings. The stock continued to trade at a significant premium to its peer median multiple of 6.4 on May 15th. The stock was also trading above its historical average multiple of 10.4. And if we look at Canopy Growth, they are trading at a multiple of 22.0, while Kronos is at 25.3. Tilray was trading at a relatively lower multiple of 13.0. Afria was trading at 3.1x. So compared to the above stocks, Afria experienced negative sentiments after earnings. Afria recorded a write-off related to its acquisition in Latin America. And before we get into the price target, I just want to look at catch you guys up on some news with Aurora Cannabis. Also, there is going to be an interview with Cam Battley that I will be playing, which he'll be talking about the earnings, partnerships, also share dilution, which I just touched up that Aurora officially has over 1 billion shares diluted.
Aurora Cannabis Chief Corporate Officer, Cam Battley. Cam, thanks so much for being here.
Nice to see you.
Appreciate it. I want to talk about this last quarter because 15,000 kilograms of marijuana is a lot of marijuana.
You know, how much do you need?
Yeah, it's a lot.
After the show.
Right. So, I mean, there were some really standout metrics in the quarter. Most important thing was that we had growth across all of our distribution channels. So Canadian medical, Canadian consumer, and international medical. But as you mentioned, one of the standouts is that we doubled production of cannabis from quarter to quarter, up to 15,000, almost 16,000 kilograms. And at the same time, we kept our SG&A flat at only 1% growth. So together, those things add up to what we've been pointing to and aiming for a long time, and that is the path to profitability, which we think we're going to achieve positive EBITDA in this current quarter, the June quarter. That's pretty exciting.
I want to ask you about that, though, because we saw the actual price of marijuana slip. That's something that both Tilray and your company have kind of been having to address here. But to hit that positive cash flow mark you're talking about, one analyst had a note out, if everything stays constant to what you saw this last quarter, pricing, everything else like that, it'd be 111% growth for the next quarter to become cash flow positive. So, I mean, when you look at that, how do you kind of think things might change from now until then in terms of pricing, and then also kind of demand and what you're seeing in Canada?
Actually, we're tracking exactly where we need to go. We saw the average price per gram in our last quarter slip a little bit, and the reason why was we were moving a lot of dried flower and not as much of our derivative products. as we want to, and they're higher margin.
Yeah.
The opportunity was there in the Canadian consumer market. But that was the only even yellow indicator. Everything else was green. So we know that we're tracking pretty well. We think that we are still going to achieve that positive EBITDA in the June quarter. And that's been our target since the beginning of the year, and that's where we're tracking.
So obviously benefiting from Canada legalizing recreational use of marijuana, huge boost to sales.
Yes.
But what about the cap that Canada has put in place in terms of retail sale growth?
Yeah,
How's that impacting you?
Retail sales in Canada have been constrained for a number of reasons. One was supply constraints, because very few companies were able to produce as much cannabis as they had anticipated. We have the opposite situation. We've got a massive ramp up in production right now. So at Aurora, we're pretty happy. We've got the opportunity now to feed all of our distribution channels, including increasing international demand, because we've got the product. So the Canadian retail system was constrained by supply, and it has had less infrastructure than it should have had. Now there are more stores opening up, and more than that, with more stores opening up across the country, and we've got new regulations that will allow for new product forms. So things like vape pens and edibles and even beverages.
When we talk about some of your other competitors, right? We had Bruce Linton from Canopy Growth sitting in the same seat you're sitting in now just a few weeks ago. Obviously moving into the U.S., trying to move in with Acreage Holdings into the U.S. I mean, for you guys, what kind of partnerships are you looking at? Obviously, you brought on Nelson Peltz.
Yes.
You're trying to move into the U.S. market. What looks most attractive to kind of entering into a much larger, 10 times Canada's market when we look at cannabis in the U.S.?
It is. First of all, we have said we absolutely will be in the U.S. market. And if you think about it, as a global leader, you have to be. We're already operating in 24 countries. It's with the largest global footprint. And we don't find the U.S. daunting, because we're already leaders in Europe, and that's an even bigger population, about 500 million if you include the U.K. Now, how we get into the U.S. market, we're keeping our cards a little bit close to our vest for the moment.
Is there one aspect, though, that you're looking at? I mean, there are brand plays here.
A lot. And you mentioned Nelson Peltz, who is amazing to work with, incredibly engaged and so knowledgeable and wise. And one of the first things that he told us was, be prepared to take your time and enter not just one mature industry, but multiple different verticals. And he said that would be a better thing for us to do for our shareholders.
So looking more at weighing multi-state operators in terms of state licenses, rather than maybe how big a company is in terms of brand recognition. I mean,
I'm nodding out of understanding, not agreement.
Trying to get a sense of what matters more to cannabis.
What we're looking for when, as we enter the U.S. market is a couple of things. First of all, there's actually selling our own products in the states where it's permissible. What we've always said is that we'll enter the U.S. market in a way that is consistent with U.S. federal law, so it will be permissible, and also without violating any restrictions or regulations of our exchanges, the NYSE and the TSX.
The same way that Canopy Growth had structured their deal as well.
So that's how. But the other thing is, it's our interest in participating in large verticals with companies, in many cases based in the U.S., is about spreading that opportunity as much as possible. We don't want to give up control to one company in one mature industry.
Yeah, well, I mean,
ideally, we want to participate in multiple verticals, and we see the opportunity to do that, and that'll be the best thing for our shareholders.
When we talk about partnerships, and this will be the last question, when we talk about maybe one problem shareholders might have with Aurora Cannabis has been dilution over the years as you continue to grow, issuing more and more shares, now over 1 billion shares outstanding when we look at Aurora. I mean, is that kind of how you might facilitate a partnership moving forward, and is that an issue as dilution continues to maybe weigh on what shareholders might have to gain?
You know, most of the time when people talk about dilution, they're talking about issuing shares for working capital. What we've done is a very conscious strategy of using shareholder capital to acquire all of the assets and capabilities that we need, to the point where we're the most integrated with the largest global footprint. So that shareholder capital has been invested very, very wisely. On a go-forward basis, let's remember that very soon we're going to be producing positive cash flow. And so we've got great access to capital right now. We've got positive cash flow coming. The future's looking pretty bright.
And 300% growth over last quarter. All right, Cam Battley, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Aurora Analyst ratings and target price. So Aurora Cannabis reported its third quarter earnings on May 14th. Since then, the stock has mainly moved sideways. Let's look at how analyst ratings and target price have changed since the earnings release. So as you can see, here's the graph right here, target price right here. It seems to have gone up a little higher, and it also seems like we have 1 or 2 more analysts, but we're going to go straight into it. As of May 15th, analyst consensus rating on the stock was a buy. 4 analysts have a strong buy recommendation on the stock compared to 3 analysts in the previous period. Currently, 6 analysts have a buy recommendation on the stock compared to 5 analysts in the previous period. In May, 2 analysts remained a hold rating while 1 analyst maintained a sell rating on the stock. The target price for Aurora Cannabis was set to $14.50 Canadian, which increased from $13.80 Canadian in the previous period. The median target price on the stock is 15 Canadian dollars. Aurora Cannabis closed at $11.70 on May 15th with the potential upside of 24% from the price convergence. So there you have it. New target price for Aurora Cannabis is $14.50 Canadian. So 4 analysts have a strong buy and 6 analysts have a buy. 2 analysts have a hold and 1 analyst has a sell rating for Aurora Cannabis. Anyways, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think about the price target. Also, let me know your opinions on the interview with Cam Battley. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget, give me a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Bye-bye.